Welcome back to School Briefs. I never really enjoy term breaks because there's so much in education to talk about, and so Claire and I have to discuss these things during the term break without um,
I know it feels like a long time between school briefs, doesn't it? I mean, it was only it ended up being a 2 week break because we ended up doing one, I think, at the beginning of the holidays, but we have had a 2 week hiatus. But it's good to be back, and it's good to be able to discuss what's on top.
The issue is that we know that we're not going to do anything over the term break because it's the last thing teachers need. But something will always happen in that kind of first week, and you're like, oh, it's going to be like 2 weeks
Yeah,
since we can talk about this. But we haven't forgotten, have we, Claire?
no, we haven't. We keep all of the receipts here at School Brief, so it's all good. We're ready to go. So
That
tell
first
you,
big one though.
sorry.
Yeah, no, that first big one was right at the very end of the term. The first lot of smart reports hit
Landed.
different inboxes.
Yeah.
And so it's been really interesting looking at the kind of online reaction and parents that have been kind of willing to share screenshots of their particular kids' reports. And I've got my own kids' ones, and it's been really interesting looking at them. And I mean, people won't be surprised to hear that I was coming in with a pretty kind of dim view of them,
Yeah.
because I think that a report should be targeted towards the particular community in which those kids go to school in. But also, you actually want a bit of coverage around how your kids are going across the entire curriculum, including capabilities. This report feels very sterile and very cold. And when I hear the minister talk about wanting to provide kind of clarity and simplicity in the way that we go about reporting, these reports are so far removed from that. I genuinely can't think of the kind of cohort of parents these reports are timed for. There is probably about 40 bullet points, maybe more, across the entire reports.
How does this
And
compare to what you would have got in the past? Like, what does this look like in comparison?
well, look, different communities did different things,
Yeah.
which the minister likes to talk about that as a massive negative because there's kind of like no consistency. But what it is schools engaging with their parent community about the type of information they want, how much information,
Yeah.
and more importantly, how a written report twice a year fits in with face-to-face communication that they like to
Yes.
have as well. These aren't kind of like isolated ways of communicating with parents. It should be seen as that kind of bigger year-long way that we're going to engage with parents. And so it shouldn't be a surprise that schools kind of do different things because they take
Yeah. Yeah.
feedback from the community. But this report is filled with so much teacher jargon. I feel like there is a mistake that has happened. Just one of them, to use this knowledge flexibly to decode more complex and unfamiliar vocabulary. I really can't what type of fraud without an education background is going to be able to take away from that sentence.
Say that sentence again.
To use this knowledge flexibly to decode more complex and unfamiliar vocabulary. I don't know.
But
I don't know the parent group that is targeted at.
and so, how many bullet points did you get? Like there was a whole lot of. Are they
Across
all
the
from?
report,
Are they all
you know,
from comment banks? How does it work? Do people They don't physically write the reports, do they?
no, well,
They
they're
tick
all
box.
AI generated these days. And so all you do is put in a bunch of kind of data sources, in this case, the kind of smart assessment tool, and then it just whips out as many bullet points as you would need. And so across the report, there is about four of them. It is a very lengthy report to get through.
Yeah.
And then right at the very end, you get a teacher comment, which is probably the nicest part of the report. I mean, I'm an educator, so I can kind of decipher everything going through, but I came away thinking, what are other parents going to be looking at this? Like, is this really the clarity that they wanted? As if kind of understanding where your kids are up to at school is some type of a silver bullet.
And what are parents expected to do with that information realistically?
Yeah, well, I mean, you get a bunch of how can you help at home,
Yeah.
and they look very familiar to the advice that came out during national standards time. I'm not sure that stuff has been updated at all,
Mm.
and I think the how you can help at home. Um, they're good. Like, there's some kind of nice ideas.
Yeah,
I don't think though that the how you can help at home is tailored towards the specific next steps that they've identified for your kid. They're just kind of more generic learning activities you can do at home. They are the type of stuff that came out during COVID.
yeah.
Um, there's probably a big disconnect with how many parents diligently look at that list and go, okay, well, these will be the tasks that I'll get my kid to do at home on Monday, and here's the Tuesday.
Is
Uh,
it like ERO? Do you have any color codes? Have you got
or
some
you
traffic
have color
lights?
coded. Yep. So the 5 progress descriptors are there.
Yeah,
And there has been lots of the online conversation around the fact that the overwhelming majority of kids at best will be caught up at the consolidating phase because they haven't been exposed to the second 6 months worth of knowledge.
yeah,
And so you'll have lots of parents with really high achieving kids who are used to seeing their kids ranked in the kind of doing really well, smashing it in
yeah.
class. All of a sudden their report presents with the kid having only acquired kind of half the knowledge for the
Yeah,
year.
that's the online commentary that I've seen, actually. I've seen a few comments saying, hang on a minute, it looks like my kid's gone backwards.
Yeah, that's right. And so it makes that kind of color coding less useful because that was designed to provide simplicity to parents and more of a kind of traffic light system.
Yeah.
But in actual fact, all you've done is group the overwhelming majority of kids within like 2 of the 5 main progress descriptors.
So what's the fit sense that you've got from your community?
Um,
Because your school's obviously is your school using these or not?
Yeah, yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
my personal school's not. You know
Oh,
how they have kind of said that you're welcome to use other tools?
yeah,
Yeah. And so we saw in that data out from the ministry that that in actual fact there's only about kind of 45% of kids in the country that have actually sat a smart tool test.
yeah,
And so the overwhelming majority of schools don't want to be guinea pigs in a kind of updated form of national testing or national
yeah,
standards.
yeah,
And so all eyes are on whether or not Erica is going to make the smart tool compulsory, because they haven't said either way as to whether or not the ability to use other testing tools is a kind of long term vision. But the cabinet papers with this whole one tool to rule them all suggests
yeah.
that probably we're not heading in that direction. Um, However, one thing that might scupper their plans for one tool to rule them all is data breaches.
I heard. I heard. There's so what was the deal with that? We heard that it was involved a couple of different schools, didn't it? They could access each other's information.
Yeah, I mean, these are the types of problems that come about
Mm.
when you roll out a tool without it being signed off properly and proper due diligence. I mean, this is the type of stuff that should have been picked up when you are rolling out a tool maybe over 3 to 5 years. But effectively, a couple of educators, as I understand, through the testing screen, were able to find a vulnerability that gave them access to about 7 different schools' data
Wow.
and about 286 individual students. Now, I think the interesting thing there, though, is that that data probably gave them access to a lot more than the 7 schools, but maybe they only clicked around in 7 schools.
Yeah, yeah,
As
yeah.
far as I'm aware, there's no sense that they were looking for this vulnerability. It was
No.
just that they were kind of poking around and found something.
Yeah.
And so it's
Yeah.
been notified. But I mean, in a world where we're talking lots more about centralization of data, to not have your eyes on data security, particularly through a kind of testing mode as well.
Yeah, I can't help feeling this is the natural outcome of doing everything at pace, isn't it? Like this idea of rolling stuff out super quick and wanting to look like that you know changing the world
Yeah, that's right.
in the space of your first 3 years is actually always going to come with its risks in terms of vulnerabilities. I actually want to come back to the most important question though, Liam. Did your daughter get a car pie to Atara?
No, no stickers at
Damn.
all.
That must be disappointing.
Yeah. I don't know if every other kid got it, except for my daughter. Um, Knowing her, she probably would have preferred the butterfly. Maybe our Corolla. Yeah. But for those people that haven't seen, there is a very cool post on our Substack account where we've gone and pulled out every clip art inspired sticker available for the
It's
smartphone.
fantastically, there's been a lot of talk of going back to basics, and I feel like there's been a lot of political talk of wanting to go back to the 70s and 80s, and there is really something quite 70s and 80s about the ka pai tuatara. Like, the quality of the clip art is spectacularly bad.
Yeah, it's
I'm,
like
I'm
they have
sorry
like,
if you're the person who designed them, but
I'm not sure they've been designed. Uh, do you know how like some people intentionally go retro? It
yeah,
just
yeah, yeah.
doesn't
There
seem like
was a
the
great
types of
ACOSA
mind.
ad campaign that was like dolloped clip art all over the place. Maybe they're being, it's on purpose by design. Oh my goodness. Okay, so it's going to be interesting. So good to hear on here from people who have either used or received those smart reports, and give us a bit of a taster of what you've seen and what you're thinking. It's an absolute shocker. And the other absolute shocker that we had came out straight after the holidays. We have the first of the ERO reports starting to land in our schools. And lo and behold, I don't know if people saw, there was a great RNZ article about this. The RNZ article wasn't great in and of itself, but the reason I thought that article was so important actually was looking at the comments and the reactions to it. It proved those bloody simplistic ERO reports are going to do absolute harm for our communities, because lo and behold, people are jumping to conclusions about the colour coding symbolising good schools and bad schools. And there was a particular comment that I want to read from that article that I just went, oh my goodness, is ERO actually saying this out loud? So this is ERO's response. The Education Review Office acknowledged the concern, i.e. that the people would judge by those bars, and told RNZ it was particularly important people read the full reports of schools in poor communities and not base judgments just on tables. What does that quote say to you?
I mean, I just get like so frustrated because when they first announced these reports, this is exactly the type of stuff
Yeah,
that we knew was going to play out
yeah,
right from the beginning.
100%.
And
Yeah,
I think a lot about what the previous Labor government did to finally tackle the stigma of decile funding, and that becoming a proxy for kind of good schools and bad schools. But this whole move around ERO reports is just a throwback to 1990s neoliberalism, where
yeah,
it is all about school choice. You want to
yeah,
like simplify the ways that parents can understand if you're a good school or a bad school,
yeah.
and then you move to the good schools, and then the bad schools will fail. But what plays out in reality is actually not all of our communities are able to just sit there and move to a school. It is something that ends up
But
favoring
also
privileged.
those color codings have nothing to do with being good or bad I mean, we know that as educators. It's like, this is a community that is facing complex challenges.
Yep.
This is a community, and actually that school might be working harder and doing more than a school that's all in its dark greens and blues or whatever the bloody colours are that are deemed good school colours. Like the lack of understanding of what that actually means when it's just a series of just simplistic colours. Like the commentary, I know you shouldn't read the comments, but I did do a read of the comments, and it was straight away people go, oh, this is great because now bad schools are going to have to sort themselves out. This is great. It's like, do you want them out in sort of, out in the stocks, out on the street, and maybe throw some cabbages at them? Like, it shows so little understanding about context, and this bullshit thing that, oh, well, in those poor communities, that people just need to read all the notes that go with it. It's like, why the hell have you got those tables if you're then turning around and saying, actually, the real information is in the notes or
Yeah, that's right.
the full
Yeah,
notes? It's absolutely insulting.
but it's incredibly consistent with a government that doesn't value equity, because they
Oh,
don't do anything to talk about the general community challenges that exist outside school but have a massive impact on kids' ability to be able to ready to engage in learning.
yeah.
Mm,
They want winners and losers, and it's going to do so much harm.
Yep, yep. It's going to be the bit that I'm interested in looking at is that this is ERO's first round of these reports. But
Yeah,
actually, what's going to be the culture and ERO around these reports once we're into like the second and third round? Because I can see us moving into the kind of UK culture where actually there's an awful lot of fear around ERO being involved, and ERO has spent a really good 10 years trying to shift their reputation
yeah.
around working alongside schools, and they've now developed a model that is going to put that massively at risk.
Yeah. It just drives me absolutely bonkers. And what it also upsets me is that there's going to be a whole lot of schools, a number of schools who are going to start getting these new color coded reports. And then there's going to be their next door neighbor school who won't have them for another 3 years. So it's not as if, like, if overnight every single school had these reports and we
Right.
had a level playing field, and they retro reported, absolutely every school around the country based on it. Wouldn't, I mean, I don't think it would make any better, but at least it would be universally terrible for everyone. I mean, the thing I worry about is there are going to be schools who have got complex challenges and living in, complex community contexts, who are going to be hung out to dry, and while other schools who, will have good colours go, oh, no, these reports are fine. And then there's going to be a whole lot of schools that are sitting on the old reports model and are going to be sitting there going, oh, wow, phew, phew, at least we're not out there in the public with our colour-coded report. It's just, there's so much wrong with it. And now that it's rolling out, it's interesting to see that it's rolling out exactly as we expected. It's rolling
Remind me
out
how the
in
color scales go.
Oh, they call the greeny teal, so at the top,
Yeah.
and then down to Alaskan salmon/red down at the bottom.
You
And
reckon the very first iteration was traffic light, and then they thought, no, 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 that's too
yeah,
obvious.
yeah,
We better go and tweak it and add in a fourth.
yeah, yeah. So it's sort of definitely a like sort of blues and like more of a tealy color. But the thing that absolutely got my you know, got me absolutely steaming last term was they have produced a guide to good schools that are available. As you say, Liam, it looks like it's a school choice brochure for parents. So a guide for parents, and it constantly throughout that guide talks about the good schools with the color coded bars, and it's just so reductive. It's so damaging, and is going to do so much harm. Even in like there is so much good happening in those schools where they might still not be able to get the greens and the blues or whatever for a number of different contexts and reasons. It is not actually a reflection on the quality of the school and the work they are doing. But
That's right.
that is not what the community is going to see, and an absolute kick in the guts.
But we
Um,
know
mm,
that this is going to do some of its more significant damage when it starts showing up in real estate agent reports.
oh,
When it's
100%.
talking about school zones and get your get your kid enrolled in teal
Blue
school.
zone.
Yeah, the blue zone. Gosh.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah,
Mm.
it's got a ring to it, eh? And then also the other thing that we had hit the news just in the last few days, Ginny Anderson shared what was it? It was a paper that was like a New Zealand curriculum design principles paper, wasn't it? That
It was
got
a cabinet paper.
published? Cabinet paper.
Yeah, that's right. And so you've got like a stack of advice from the Ministry of Education talking about the direction of curriculum. And then
Yeah.
there's a stack of handwritten notes from the Minister of Education. And there's a couple of interesting things here. One is that um, you kind of go back and forth around kind of where this anti-minority view is coming from the government.
Mm.
Is it from the advice of ministry officials? Is it from cabinet as a whole, or is it the Minister of Education herself? And so, what these documents show is that actually the Minister of Education is holding the pen around the direction of
Literally.
this stuff,
Yeah.
because you get relatively innocuous statements around the curriculum for all children, including Māori, Pacifica, and learning support. And she doesn't want the mention of Māori, Pacifica, and learning support when talking about the curriculum, and so therefore just puts an entire line through it.
Yeah.
And you kind of hear some of the pushback around, yeah, but she's talking about all students. Well, then just leave the sentence in.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
ministry thought that it was important enough to include a specific mention of those groups because they have traditionally been let down by curriculum
Yeah, yeah.
approaches, and that doesn't take away from the fact that the curriculum is meant to be for all, but there was a very specific mention around actually this does have to be representative. And so you hear people going, yeah, but it does say all students. But actually, for those groups that have been let down by curriculum, being able to kind of see yourself as intentionally designed in this curriculum, because previous curriculums have been about all kids, despite the fact that actually they have let down those groups. But I think the second point, though, is that it isn't just about this one particular document and the
No,
minister writing it out.
this is a passion, isn't it?
100%. And it goes back to the At the Marae booklet that the minister was very hands on in having removed because they believed that it showed too many Māori words.
Yep.
It goes back to the rebalancing of Aotearoa histories because it talks too much about Māori culture in it. And so I think AEC actually is going to be pulling together a bit of a timeline that kind of ties
Mm.
all these things in. But it's just yet another example of this government going out of their way to damage relationships between Crown and Māori.
And I think when people are too quick to say, oh, all students includes all of them, that's actually sounding a little bit too much like David Seymour language. His whole thing about all New Zealanders and we're all the same. So we shouldn't have to talk about separate, don't have race-based health policies or race-based. And it's just like, actually, it's one thing to say that from a place of privilege, but when the point is, the reason that they're in the brackets is because they're pulling out and highlighting out identified at-risk ARCON. Nothing more.
Yeah, that's right.
And having them specifically highlighted in that way is important. And I'm sorry, if you think it isn't important, I think you've forgotten just how underserved historically those groups have been. Because,
Exactly. Yep.
you know,
Yep. In our approach to designing a curriculum for all, we want to have in our forefront those communities that have been most let down, Māori, Pacifica, and learning support. And that's been really interesting hearing the commentary from the learning support community around how this kind of knowledge-rich curriculum, whole class teaching, is just not working for kids that do need additional support for learning.
Yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely gutting. It'll be interesting to see where that goes, and I look forward to seeing where the AEC report goes. Actually, talking about AEC, it's important to give people a heads up that in a few weeks we'll be launching a bit of an important report, won't we? Is it time for a teaser yet, Liam? Or can we mention? Yeah. So we have been working behind the scenes to develop a bit of a blueprint for education in Aotearoa and the future that we collectively have that is non-partisan, that isn't about who's in government, which is about laying out a blueprint for what we think is really important for our vision for all of our young people here in Aotearoa. So just a little bit of a tease that we've got that launch happening hopefully in a few weeks. Well, it'll be 3 or 4 weeks' time, won't it? More information to come. But also, before we finish up, can we finish on a bit of a good news story? Just this week, we have heard that outdoor education has been saved and has very quietly, I think it's really interesting how quiet this has been, considering all of the fuss that there was, like in terms of the frustration when outdoor education, for those who aren't in the secondary space, there was a real sense of frustration that when we had our senior subject list published, outdoor education wasn't on there. It's a very popular senior secondary subject. It was going to be pushed into the vocational subjects. Lo and behold, a couple of days ago, we quietly hear an announcement. Outdoor education is back on the senior subject list. So I just want to really tautoko Fiona McDonald and all of those involved at Outdoor Education New Zealand and the incredible work that they did for well over a year. I mean, they had 53,000 that signed that petition, but just want to give a big round of applause and thank you to Fiona McDonald and her team for the incredible work that they had done, because I have no doubt that a lot of that comes down to the incredible mahi from them and highlighting the importance of that as a special subject. Now we just need art history back, and I think there's a few others as well. But a good news story to finish school briefs on.
Okay, it isn't exclusively education, but out of all of the kind of oh, sorry, how do I word this? Out of all of the kind of people recycling themselves back into political parties, who are you most looking forward to having back in Parliament?
Oh, sheesh. I don't know. It's like watching a car crash happen. Like, and we've seen certain, we thought Paul Henry was absolutely going to crash out there. He's still hanging on. Is he going to make it to the election? I don't know. Michael Laws. Oh my God, I can't say that I'm looking forward to have any of those buggers back into Parliament. But I guess it's at least we've got a reprieve from Stuart Nash. Oh my goodness, what a doozy! Like that's
Come on.
one out, two to go. Although there may be more that come up before then. But it makes me sad that actually politics is becoming such a freaking circus and such a freaking Trumpian circus. We deserve better, man. We
Yep.
deserve so much better.
But I mean, at a time where you were just wanting, you would hope people would be wanting to see the value in kind of bringing in a fresh generation of leaders into the country. It's
That's
like,
the best they can do. Some
yeah,
shock jocks.
yeah, that's right. Yeah. Yeah. But I mean, it's also pretty kind of like cynical around how you kind of grab media attention in this day and age. You actually need to go back and bring people on board that are willing to say the most kind of loud and provocative things. And I guess in Stuart Nash's case, that's kind of like backfired because it turns out in the eyes of New Zealand First, there is actually a limit.
Yeah.
And it isn't anything to do with like knee pads or being racist towards Indian communities. Um,
It was interesting, wasn't it? There was some interesting discussion about the fact that such a unilaterally sexist, stupid comment got him torpedoed. Yet we do, as a country, seem to be comfortable with some absolutely disgusting, racist commentary coming out of our ministers' mouths. And I worry about what that says about us as a country. And I hope we get a pushback. What's your chances? Do you think Paul Henry will make it right through to election?
I don't know. Based on that Q&A interview, I suggest not. I mean, I didn't even think Jack Tame pushed him that hard, but he was very keen to kind of admire the issue and kind of insinuate that taking on Google and Facebook is just too hard based on his ideology, and then didn't really have a lot of substance. And I
No.
don't know, I just kind of like wonder if maybe he thought this whole thing was just going to be a bit easier than it was, but he was massively underprepared for that.
Interesting. I reckon Michael Laws hasn't come out at the volume that I thought he might. So I wonder if he's waiting for, like he doesn't seem to be doing the grabbing of the maybe people just aren't interested in listening to him. There's some
Yeah.
hope.
The the other kind of hypocrisy about the way that people lined up behind the removal of Stuart Nash from kind of New Zealand First and National was that this is also the same government that has kind of removed billions of dollars in pay equity funding for women.
100%.
Um, and
100%.
so, and so they're more than happy for kind of Shane Jones' racist comments to go through and represent the government.
Yeah.
But actually, Stuart's one around lazy stay-at-home mums
Yeah.
was apparently the line. And then at the same time, they're more than happy with
Luxon is happy to torpedo.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's an absolute doozy. It's going to be an interesting few weeks. Going to be an interesting few weeks as well for us in the secondary space. We're all still sitting and waiting to hear more details about our senior qualification and what's happening in the vocational spaces. It's all become very strangely quiet. So I'm looking forward to hearing some more. I do not have any great hopes for the direction of travel. I still think there's become more and more clear with work from Stuart McNaughton and everyone else that actually they're making the wrong choices, man. And actually, have we talked about Stuart McNaughton on this? That's come out since we last chatted, isn't it?
It has. Let's talk about that next week, actually, because
yes.
I think that's good. That was such an important contribution,
such an important piece.
Definitely stirred up a few kind of influences.
Who knew that a chief scientific education advisor could be dismissed so easily?
Right, very deep.
We'll do a deep dive about that one.
Yeah. Cool. Well, let's wrap that up. Thanks heaps for that, Claire, and looking forward to catching up next week.
Excellent. Have a great one, everyone. Have a great week too. Ka kite.